Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And oh my goodness, here we go. We are in season 7. And I am excited to bring you another special guest as this week I'm getting to talk with my good friend, Heidi Hartman. Heidi is a certified executive coach. She's the author of her new book. I'm just going to hold this up right here. Her Rise, Her Rules. We're going to be talking about 7 secrets of successful leaders. We're going to be talking about a lot of the things that she's doing to really elevate leaders in the workplace. I want to say women, but just leaders in general. And I'm so excited to have you on the show. Heidi, how you doing?
I am doing great, Bruce. It is so good to see you. And Shish Kebab, I cannot believe you're already in season 7. You have been going strong and have had some incredible leaders. So I'm so honored just to be here and get to hang out with you in Life in the Leadership Lane.
Ooh, I love that. It's just got just such a great sound to that. Hey, I always like to start the show, as you may know from my previous podcasts, and I like to start the show with some reflection. And I like to reflect on like when I met my guests or maybe when they came into my path. I've had a few guests on the show that I had not met, but when they came into my path, when they started they got my attention. And for you, Heidi, I don't know if you remember, but Oklahoma HR, I mean, you're a former state conference, state director for
Mhm.
today it's SHRM, Oklahoma. And
Yes.
you're a former president of the chapter of Tulsa Area
Hmm.
Human Resource
Sure,
Management
Tulsa
Association.
now.
Yep, SHRM Tulsa now. I got to speak there recently, right after you. And but we met years ago, and I want to say we met actually for the first time. It may have been at a SHRM national event, but I know in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We and then we later got to have dinner. Do you remember our kind of when we first met?
I remember, so I think that we connected at a state conference,
Yes.
but we really got to sit down and visit when you came to our state VLBM. So I think they call it something
Oh,
different now, but right, but
yes.
the Volunteer Leader Business Summit or Management, and it was at the Hard Rock in Tulsa.
Yes.
And it was one of you just finished your book, Life in the Leadership Lane, and we all got a copy. And it was
Yes.
so exciting. And you spoke to us about leadership,
Mm,
and it made such a difference for
mm,
all of the 11 chapters and their boards, and really getting to listen to as a volunteer state leader or for my local chapter,
mm.
what are some of the things that I need to be doing? And how does this help me find my path? Yeah, just kismet. When we met, I just feel like we became instant friends.
And that was 10 years ago. And actually that was my first book. That was Find Your Lane.
Hmm.
And it was because Mike Shaw had asked me to come
Yes.
in and
Yeah.
speak, and Mike was leading, and I remember that. That was a fantastic. You know what's interesting is I've got the opportunity to do that for several state councils since. I was up in Wisconsin doing that in 2025. I got to do it again for Oklahoma HR on virtual when Christy was going through her COVID years. And I have a couple more on the docket for this year. And so that was a lot of
Oh,
fun. Oh my
good.
goodness. That's
Yeah.
so fun. Oh my goodness. I love like the reflection part and just like think about that. How quick time goes. That was almost 10 years ago and here we are and you're just doing some amazing things. Well let's kick this thing off. I would love for people to know. And what I love, I'm going to hold up your book again. Heidi Hartman has just she published a book in 2025 called Her Rise, Her Rules. And you share a lot of personal information in this book. But I want you to share the Heidi Hartman story. Like, where did you grow up, and how in the world did you get into coaching and speaking and training and all the wonderful things you're doing today for the work people in the workplace?
I think, and I think about what you've written too. My path took a very circuitous route. I was born in Charleston, West Virginia, the youngest of four kids. And I promise I won't go back to like when I was a baby. But each of the four of us kids were born in a different state. My
Mm.
dad was in the oil business, oil patch, as a geologist. And so we moved around quite a bit. I was in Midland, so from West Virginia, Bartlesville, Midland, Texas, um, back to Tulsa, and then I moved. I think I pretty much grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's where I went to high school, went to OU,
Hmm.
and graduated in a time that I decided that I was going to work in DC behind the scenes for one of our members of Congress. And when I graduated, Bruce, the political climate had changed, and the party that I was affiliated with and still am was no longer in power, and there was a lot of changes. And I thought, well, what the heck am I going to do?
Mm.
Because my plan was to work in DC. And so your folks are like, get a job. That's what you need to do. I fell into retail and did that
Mm.
for about 10 years, what I
Mm.
call ended up being retail hell, because it was just, working 78
Mhm.
hours a week. Lived in Lawton, lived in Tyler, Texas, um, managing a staff of 30. I had a blast, but I had no life. And the guy I was dating at the time, who ended up being my husband, was in Alaska. I was in Tyler, Texas, and I was thinking, okay, I need my community. So, decided I'm going to go back to school. I do not recommend this, but I took my 401k and paid for my master's to go back
Mm.
to OU,
Mm.
and got my master's in human relations, organizational dynamics. And there were two paths that you could go. One was more social work focused, which I do have a strong heart for that, but I do it
Mm.
on a volunteer basis.
Mm.
And the other was more organizational, thinking about how do we work together as a team? How do we go through change? All of that great stuff. And graduated with that. And as part of that last semester, you had to get an internship. And I was fortunate to get an internship at an energy company in Tulsa and in the HR department. And Bruce, I didn't even know about HR and what all the cool things were. And I was like, wait, what? This is a
Yeah.
job? This is a career that I could do. And it really was a hand in glove fit, and
Yeah.
worked in a couple of different energy organizations, rose up, left, went to a couple of different companies. One was architecture and engineering, was head of HR of a C-store company, and so convenience store,
Mhm.
and multi-state organization. And then kind of shifted more into organizational development.
Mm.
And that's when I just fell in love and decided to start my own company. And so for
Mm.
15 years, I've been doing some HR earlier in the time, but have really shifted to work with more organizational development. So coaching, leadership development,
Mm.
facilitating for, strategic planning, and working with nonprofits and doing board retreats, and just kind of, I'm having a blast. And last probably 5 years, I've done another shift to work with women leaders more so, still work with a lot of male leaders, but
Mhm.
I thought, um, one of the things that gives me a lot of energy is thinking about my career path and trajectory,
Mm.
and some of the things that I did that were really stupid, and some of the things that served me well, and wanted to be a champion and focus on how do we help women leaders rise in the organization.
Mm.
to whatever level they want, helping them define success as they see it, not the way that society may tell us what success is.
Yeah.
And so that the book kind of led to that last
Mm,
shift and that
yeah.
focus. Yeah.
And I want to get into the book because you share a lot in this book, and I got to tell you, I love highlighting and writing and dog tagging, folding over corners. Like I have marked your book up. And I mean that in a good way. And as I kind of went through it, I thought about that. I was like, man, she has a heart for helping women in the workplace, women leaders rise in the workplace. And so I want to go ahead and kind of get into this. And of course, I mentioned the subtitle Seven Secrets of Successful Leaders. And I don't want to go through each chapter. What I want to do, first of all, you talked a little bit about why. I can tell why you wrote this book. You have a heart for helping women leaders, but why do you? I don't know. I'm just going to throw this out there. I know a lot of
Yeah.
women leaders that are phenomenal.
Mhm.
Like I admire them. I would go work for them. But yet, as I like listen to you and think about this, it sounds like women need more help than men. And you put a lot of statistics in the book. You put a lot of bias in the book. Talk a little bit about that just for a second. Like, what do people need to know?
Yeah. So I don't know that women need more help with men. What I would say, Bruce, is that um, there are obstacles,
Hmm.
additional obstacles
Okay.
that women have faced in the workplace that many men do not.
Yeah.
And I think it is, you know, when you look at our population,
Yeah.
and women are just a little more than 50%.
Yeah. Of
And I won't go into the specific stats. You can
course.
read that in the book.
Yep.
But as we rise higher in our careers, there's the balance is different than when we start our careers.
Mm.
And that's not due to, there's a lot of research that talks about that's not due to desire of women
Mm.
and their desire to be in leadership roles and the higher levels. It's
Mm.
not due to education. Women are have a more women have their degrees than men as a percentage rate. It's not due to capabilities.
Mm.
So there are some things in there in our workplaces that are some systems that are keeping women from rising as high as they're capable of or their desire to. And what I really wanted to do in the book is to focus on what are those things that we have agency over
Mm.
and that we can move the needle on. We may not be able to change the systems within our organizations. And I've got, a last chapter about that, just kind of a nod to, hey, here are some things that you can do as an organization. But I wanted the majority of the book to focus on what are the things that we as individuals can do to move the needle? How do we build our network, or what I call our heart hive, that encompasses not only our ride or die folks, but really those mentors with an S,
Mhm.
the sponsors and the advocates that we need at the different stages of our careers. And what do we have influence and control over um, throughout our career trajectory? And what can we be intentional about in thinking about how we want to grow and defining that and making sure that we're grounded in our core values.
I love that. And I remember early on, core values was something I grabbed onto very early on because I was making decisions without realizing, like, oh, wait a minute, that's not really that important to me. Why am I making that decision? And later I read Dare to Lead, which is a very popular book by Brene Brown.
Yes.
And she said, when someone asks you your core values, you should know your top two just like that, like not even
Mhm.
flinching. I love that. And you talked about some of the different things, and I've circled a couple things I'm gonna ask you about. The first one you mentioned, cultivating influence is your superpower. And what is interesting about that is you spoke at SHRM Tulsa the month before I did, and you spoke about your book, and then I took your superpower of influence and talked about that even deeper because I think that is something that we all need to work on, and that is developing our influence in the workplace. But I want to jump into this one page. It was on page 28, and it caught my attention because I wrote a note on the page, and the page is around defining success.
Mhm.
In my book, Drive with Purpose, that was my very first chapter. I feel like if you don't define success, somebody else is going to define it for you.
Oh,
And
exactly.
yeah, isn't that true? So I wrote down, as you can kind of tell right here, I'm writing my notes
Yeah.
here. So my definition is finding your lane to create joy in your career.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think about success as like, hey, I need to win an award. I need to book $1 million. I need to get a promotion. I need to become the the VP, whatever that is.
Or
And that could
VIP.
be good. Or the VIP. And that could be, but you have to
Yeah.
define what that means for you. Talk about the importance of defining success and what the listeners should take away from that.
Yeah. So I think if we don't define it, as you said, Bruce, people are going to define it for us. And
Yeah.
society really tells us, okay, do you drive this fancy car? Do you live in a big house? Do you, what society defines for us may not be, or it might be, right?
Yeah.
What's important to you, but to really sit with and understand, what do you value? What is important to you? Is it flexibility, or is it um, being the senior VP or CEO? And you may not be able to have both, right? And
Hmm.
so to think about what's important and really prioritize that for you and the life that you want to live. So when you're doing the bench test, which I think all of us should do at least once a year, and that
Hmm.
is go to a park, sit on a bench, and think about your life. And at the end of your life, and in 10 years, 20 years, 40 years from now, wherever you are, whatever season you're in, what's been important to you and what do you need to live that life?
Hmm.
And I think it's perfectly fine if someone wants to have a big old bank account and that's what's important to them.
Yeah.
And so their life to be led to, what do I need to do to get that big account? For me, it is that flexibility. I love working for myself. It's a little bit of a roller coaster, right?
Hmm.
But this is what I chose.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable with risk and things shifting and changing, and I'm pretty adaptable with that. And that won't be everybody's cup of
Hmm.
tea. And thinking about being able to travel and spend time with people that I love and bring me joy, and having enough money to be able to give back to the causes that speak to my heart. And that's not what everybody defines as success, right?
Hmm.
And so, as many as there are of us as individuals, there should be that many definitions of success and what's important to you, and really understanding that and then building your life around that and
Hmm.
having it align with what your values are. I think Brene Brown is fabulous. I think two values is too few. I've got,
Hmm.
four that
Yep.
I focus on, and reviewing those every year too, because the
Yeah.
order may shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I told that story many years ago when I was a young manager. And there was a trainer in the room, and he had that sheet. And you, by the way, in this book, Heidi has a list of I don't know how many values there are, but there are many for you to look at to see what resonates with you. And anyway, he gave us that sheet and we circled it, and then he said, number your, top five, and you numbered the top five. And then he said, hey, who has integrity as number one? And I remember I did not. I didn't even know what integrity meant, I don't think. But all the leaders in the front row all raised their hand, and I thought, that's important. I need to know that. If
Yeah.
every single leader in the front row, so in other words, people are watching you all the
Mhm.
time. You talked a lot too about the importance of finding your inner lion and courage,
Yes.
which I
Yeah.
loved. I wrote another little point on here. It said, great tips. You talk about ideas to amplify women's voices, including the following. You said, offer to be a spokesperson or presenter, email the group spelling out people's roles and responsibilities, keep track of accomplishments in real time, create a file for specific purpose tracking accomplishments. I just love all like you not only like share stories, you share some reasons why you need it, but you also give tips on, hey, here's how you can do it. Talk about finding your inner lion.
I think about, courage and how important that is.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have fear. There's a lot of talk about, imposter syndrome. Well, I am on a mission to get rid of the word syndrome. It's not
Mm.
a
Ugh.
medical malady, right?
Mm.
It's a mindset. So when you think about imposter mindset, maybe I don't belong here. Um, and we all have fear. And the thing is, we've got to pull up our courage because we've got to use our voice.
Mm.
And HR, a lot of times we'll talk about having a seat at the table. And
Yeah.
I am so tired of that phrase.
Yeah.
And I think there is, and I don't remember exactly what it was, I can't recall the quote, but there's a quote by, I believe it's Dr. Maya Angelou that talks about if you have a seat at the table, but you're not using your voice, you might as well not be there, right?
Mm.
So you've got to focus on what is my courage? What can I bring forward? What the world needs to hear your voice. And one of the things, the biggest differentiator between men and women in their career growth, found by Catalyst, is that visibility.
Mm.
And if you're not using your voice, then you're not going to raise your visibility.
Mm.
And so people are not going to know what you're capable of or the achievements that you've made. And that requires courage
Yeah.
because so often, as we grow up, women are taught to um, please and take care of everybody else
Mm.
and to really use our voice because we have some important things to say within the organization, and using that raises our visibility.
Yeah, this is so good. I love all this. And as I think about this, I think about a lot of younger. And when I say younger, maybe even not younger, but yet maybe they're moving into a new area in their career. And there's just a lot of uncertainty. Like, I don't know, what are some tips? How do people get courage, Heidi? I mean,
Yeah,
I interviewed a lady one time on the podcast, and she said, it's really easy and it's really hard.
yeah,
It's really easy to just go say something, just go use your voice, but it's really hard
yeah.
to do that because all of a sudden now you're kind of walking on, in some cases, it could be a political situation. In some cases, I mean, talk about that. How do you find courage in the workplace to go where you want to go?
We all have this anxiousness, especially when we might be earlier in our career and those emerging leaders.
Yeah.
And or you might be like one of my daughters who may not have a filter and just say things, right? So you can be on the other end of that
I have
spectrum.
that.
Yeah. So thinking about what you want to say and even writing out a few notes before you go into
Yeah.
an important meeting, or
Yeah.
think about a point that you want to make and coming at things from a place of curiosity and asking
Mm,
questions and then saying, here's how I see this. Will you share your goal or your focus for this so we can ensure that we're moving in the right direction? So, coming in from that place of curiosity can diminish defensiveness of others, and you start by little steps. I know that both of us have talked about this when we share wisdom about influence,
mhm,
and that is starting small and building upon that. So,
mhm,
thinking about, I am going to, Bruce has given this presentation, and I am going to add in, here are two key points that I really appreciate about what Bruce said the
mm,
first time, right? Or the second time, I'm going to lift up what Sarah said as key for the organization and how I see that in my department. So, starting out small and incrementally, and then growing that courage and your lion. And it is anxiousness and excitement
mm,
have the same chemical makeup. So if you can shift your mindset to think about those butterflies in your stomach are really, I'm going to get them in formation. And
mm,
I'm really excited to share these key points that I've written down so you help yourself get there. And what are some of the things that you can do to raise your voice in those meetings and be mindful of where you sit, just being mindful of how you show up. And instead of having our heads down and taking notes, make
mm.
sure that you are part of the conversation.
I love that. I'm getting some coaching right here. Folks, you need to be writing down notes right now. I've already got two full pages of notes, Heidi. Just now I wrote down these three words and thinking about courage and finding your inner lion, being curious, asking questions, being interested. I love that. And then I wrote down start small and highlight others' ideas. This is so good. I love it. Hey, I want to know this. Okay, so I remember you telling me I'm going to write a book, and then you telling me I'm writing a book, and today you've written a book. Tell
Yeah.
me what did you learn writing the book, and maybe what are you most proud of?
I am proud that it's done, and I'm proud of the book. Um, the way that I got there is just the way that I got there.
Yeah.
I so admire, Bruce, your discipline, and
Mm.
one of my areas of opportunity would be not discipline, right? Because I'm like, oh, shiny squirrel, and thinking about, and you can probably even see my office behind me has a lot of, things going on. So I like variety, and
Mm.
sitting down and having that discipline was really difficult for me. And part of it was it hit at COVID. And instead of, getting in super shape and getting all this stuff done and finishing the book, I just was not in a creative space. And
Mm.
so for 2 years, basically unplugged from the book. And the funnest part for me was the research and interviewing over 100 women leaders. And
Mm.
I was really intentional about that. And from across the US, I didn't go outside of the US, but, talked to over 100 women leaders and just was fascinated by their stories and their growth, and thinking about the women leaders that I coached and hearing their stories and thinking about what were their obstacles. And they were all so generous and vulnerable with me in the information that they shared. Then pulling all of that together, and I hand wrote my notes, and it was
Mhm.
about that thick. And going through all of that was a little bit daunting and just took me a little bit longer. But I've got a great group of editors that I worked
Mm.
with at indie publishing, and they were more than gracious,
Mm,
and had some medical things pop up too, that kept me from being able to focus on the book. So it is done, and it's like when you do facilitation,
mm,
and you're just happy for whoever shows up. I don't care if 5 people are there or 300 people are there. Whoever's there needs to hear whatever information we have to share.
mm,
And I feel the same about the book. I feel like it is going to be helpful for a lot of women leaders or women who desire to move to that next level. I also get to work with a lot of CEOs and senior VPs, and it's funny because we will go through some of the things that we go over in the book as well, and making sure that they have a sunshine folder of here are the key accomplishments. So then I can pull them out and talk
mm.
about them when it comes time to my performance review, or if I'm working with a senior leader or the CEO, who I want to be my advocate, right? And the advocates choose you. You don't get to
Mm.
choose them,
I love that.
but there are things that you can facilitate to help make that relationship work.
I love that. Well, be sure, if you're listening, pick up a copy. Her Rise, Her Rules, Seven Secrets of Successful Leaders by Heidi Hartman. As you said that, I thought to myself, you can also use this for a work study in your workplace, as lunch and learns. You can do a book club. There's so much you
Yeah.
can do with that. And as you shared how you interviewed, 100 leaders, how when you learn from others, you think to yourself, hey, I'm going to interview all these people and I'm going to share this with the world, but you don't realize how much growth it helps you along the way. You grow so
Yeah.
much. And I just love that. I'm so proud of you, Heidi, and all the work you've done here. I want to talk about, you mentioned a word earlier that I wrote down, and it was community. You were
Mhm.
looking for community. And it's interesting when you write a book. I remember I wrote my book, and then it led to another book, it led to a podcast, it led to speaking. Your book has also led you to form another group. We were talking about offline, and I want you to talk about that for a second because I think this is important. And you were talking about the community, her circles. Talk about that for a second for the listeners who might be more interested in building a community of leaders.
Yeah. So thanks, Bruce. I am very excited about this, and it is so I'm working on well, I'm not working on it's starting a project
It's
that's the
starting.
inaugural. Yeah, it's happening, y'all. The inaugural launch is in onboarding in late January and February,
Okay.
and it's called Her Circles, and it's building this community of women leaders. I'm starting local first, so in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, and it is a combination of both emerging leaders as well as what I call apex or senior leaders. And it's a 5-month program that aligns with the framework of the book. And we're going to have some pop up training. There's going to be some one on one coaching. There's an assessment. So it's pretty robust. And we're going to meet once a month in person. And I'm going to facilitate this community, and we're going to help each other rise by our own rules.
Mm,
So, thinking through what are some of the obstacles that you're facing, how as a group can we help you, and just build this safe space that's a community that's all about positive forward momentum and growth for women leaders.
mm,
And I cannot wait. I've got groups that are already online. I've
mm,
got not virtual, but I mean ready to go, and have a few spots open, and just excited about this process. And then in later in the year, we're going to build this. And my intent, although this group may say, no, Heidi, keep us together, is to split that and have 2 groups, one
mm,
of specifically emerging and one of the senior leaders, because we're just in different seasons, is how
Hmm.
I see it now, but that may shift, right? So this group is going to help me decide how best to move forward with that as well.
I love that. This is so exciting, Heidi. Her
I know,
circles.
I can't wait.
And I'll put all the information in the show notes so you can click on the link and you can connect with Heidi to learn more about the group Her Circles. I'll also put a link on the show in the show notes about how to pick up a copy of her book as well. And so this is so exciting. I am super pumped about watching your road ahead. It's going to be amazing. You're doing a wonderful work and helping women soar. You wrote down soar. I just love that. Hey, I want to shift over to it's time to accelerate just for some fun questions.
Yeah.
And you talked about you're looking forward to, the this community, building this community into the new year. I love that. In the book, you wrote down a line that said, "I'm a continuous learner," early in the book, and I underlined that line. I was like, "Me too."
Yes, I know.
And
We are
so,
same, same.
but what I want to know from you is, what's something you've always wanted to learn and that you want to eventually learn to do? Anything come to mind?
So, one of the things that's always been on my list is write a book, right? Since I was little.
Yeah.
And so, check. So,
Check that
next,
box.
one of the things I think would be fun to learn, I don't know if I will do this or not, is but to learn to play the stand-up bass.
Whoa.
So that huge,
Yes.
like stand-up bass.
Like,
Yeah.
yes. Like it's massive. Like, how do you
Yeah.
even get that into your car?
I know. I'll probably have to get a bigger car.
I love that. That's exciting. Hey, I wrote in my book, Great Leaders Are Grateful Leaders, and certainly I'm grateful for you for coming on the show today. What are you most grateful for, Heidi?
Oh gosh, I would say, Bruce, I am so grateful for the fabulous people that are in my life. When I
Mm,
think about people that I get to connect with, like you and Roseanne, and just the HR community overall, and how fortunate I have been in making so many great friends for I just am so rich in relationships
mm,
and the people that I get to hang out with and learning about other things. So I would say learning in people, right? So
hmm
the relationships that I get to have, the things that I get to learn and just expand every day. I asked my dad, Bruce, I don't know if I think I shared this with you. My dad's 100. He'll be 101 in March of this year. And I asked him what his 2026 goals were. And he said, well, I think it is, Heidi, to wake up every day and to keep breathing.
hmm
And I thought about, I am still at 100 and, what, 8 months. I am still hearing new stories from my dad and
mm,
the things that he has learned through life. And he is, he can't see, which is really hard from, just at his age.
mm,
But he stays engaged in the news and is very, well, what do you think about this? And we'll ask you about the James Webb telescope. And so I guess I come by that love of learning honestly from both
mm,
of my folks, but thinking about, just how do we grow?
mm. I love that. I'm the host. I'm supposed to make you cry. You're not supposed to make me cry. I love that. Like, wake up every day. Like, I love that. Just simple. And
Yeah.
and also what's how he defines success.
It shifts, right?
That's
He's in a different season than we are.
He's in a different season, and
Yeah.
I love all that. He's Oh man, what an amazing story. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier, this is my last question I have for you, Heidi, and then we'll wrap up here. But you mentioned the bench. We
Mhm.
got to sit on that bench We need to do some reflection. And I've been asking guests this. I've asked 250 guests so far. And I want to ask you as well. And that is Heidi, 10 years older, is around the corner and she's knocking at your door. And you are going to go answer that door. What's she going to tell you?
She is going to tell me to focus on what's truly important to me so you can bring other people along and help them meet what's important to them.
Mm,
Right? So we've got to think about what's key to us and what's our priority and making
yeah.
sure we live life that way. Because when we reflect back, what we define as important needs to be what we're proud of at the end of our life.
Mm,
And I believe that it is going to be for me the wonderful people that I've gotten to know and the relationships that I've had. And from a professional standpoint, helping others take their what ifs to what's possible
mm.
to help them grow with what is important to them.
That is so good. I love that. That's a wise 10 years older Heidi Hartman. I love that. I'm so proud. Her Rise, Her Rules. I'm holding this book up one more time. I'm going to put this in the show notes for the listeners as we wrap up here. One thing that you would like to share that we talked about or we didn't talk about that you want to leave everyone with, Heidi?
So I would say listen to what's in your heart
Mm,
and make sure that with our time on this earth that we are helping others that may
mm.
be less fortunate than us.
Mm, so good. Give hope. I call that give hope.
Yeah.
Help other people every day.
Yeah.
And that is so good. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while.
Me
And
too.
finally got to have you on the show. I cannot wait to share this with everybody. Okay, for those who have listened to the show and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I also have a lot of notes too, Bruce. I need to connect with Heidi." How is the best way for someone to connect or follow you? They want to learn more about your book. Maybe they want to learn more about her circles. Maybe they just want to learn more about some of the coaching you do, or maybe they need a keynote speaker. How's the best way for them to connect?
Best way to connect, I would say LinkedIn. And then my website is just HHartmanConsulting.com. Or you can just Google Heidi Hartman, and there's a gal out of DC who does some work, and there's
Oh,
me that I have found.
I love that. And I'll put that in the show notes. And I want to just throw this out there. If you will send me a note on something that you took away, I'm going to draw and I'm going to send someone a book, one of your books, Heidi. Her Rise, Her Rules. Just send me a note. My email address is in the show notes. Just send me a note. Give me a takeaway, and after about a week, I'll draw somebody a book and I'll send you a book. And I'm so excited because I'm sending you a book because I enjoyed this book.
Yeah.
I have lots of notes. I think it will help a lot of people. I'm going to be recommending this book. I'm going to be gifting this book, and I think you've just done a wonderful job. I'm so proud of you, and I cannot wait to see what's ahead.
Thank you, Bruce. This was such a treat. And you know, it's funny. The book is written for women leaders, but it works for everybody. I'll just say that. And this was such a treat. And thank you so much. And I love what you're doing out there. And I'm just so glad that we're friends.
Awesome. Hey, all right. Well, listen, you happy New Year, and look forward to watching your road ahead, my friend.